Welcome to the Become a Writer Today podcast with Brian Collins. Here you'll find practical advice and interviews for all kinds of writers.
Goals. No matter what type of writer you are, I think goals are a fantastic way of helping you take a creative project from start to the end. Hi there, my name is Brian Collins, and in this episode, I'm going to explain how you can set goals for your writing. I'm going to talk about the different types of goals you can set, and I'm going to talk about how you can track your goals. Recently, I came across a great quote and a piece of advice by David Brooks, who's an American writer who writes for the New York Times and other publications. And he said, "Great creative minds think like artists, but work like accountants." And I think this is a fantastic piece of advice because, yes, there's a time for exploring interesting ideas that you're intrigued by, but you also need to quantify what success for your writing looks like and be honest with yourself and ask yourself, have you actually produced anything of merit? In other words, you need to be able to step back from your work at some point and ask yourself, is this getting the job done? So what are the types of goals that you can set that would help you think like an accountant, but without getting bored out of your mind? Well, the first type of goal that writers can set is a goal around a word count. This is the easiest goal to set because all you need to do is keep a little notepad next to where you're writing. And then when you're finished working for the day, just record the date and your word count for that particular session. When you're ready to get a little bit more advanced, you can keep it all logged in a spreadsheet, and then at the end of the week, you can total up your word count for the week. And then the following week, you can try and beat that word count. You can set that as a goal. Alternatively, if you're working on some more long-form projects, you can use a feature within Scrivener that would help you set a word count goal for that particular writing session. And then you can track your progress each time you go into Scrivener. But how many words represents a good goal? Well, it really depends what level you're at. If you're a new writer, why not just set a goal for 200 words or 300 words? And those 200 or 300 word writing sessions will quickly stack on top of each other. On the other hand, if you're a bit more confident and you've got a writing routine that works and you're working in a first draft, you could set yourself a goal of producing 1,000 or 2,000 words a day. And if you're ready for something like dictation, you could increase that even further. So it really depends on what you're working on and how confident you are in your writing routine. The next type of goal you can set is around a project. What does a writing goal for a project look like? Well, if I'm working on a book, I would break that project down into small milestones. So I could say to myself, by the end of November, I will have outlined the first draft of my nonfiction book. Or I could say by the end of January, we'll have worked through all of the edits for a book that I'm going to publish in April. If you're working on something smaller, your project could involve producing a series of articles for your editor by a particular deadline. Or perhaps if you're a blogger, a project goal could involve writing a series of emails that subscribers to your email list will get when they opt in. In other words, a project should have a start, a beginning, and an end. The next type of goal that writers typically set, and it's sometimes a goal that's set for them, is deadline. So I've worked on and off as a freelance writer over the years, and typically an editor will say to you, I need a 600 word article or I need a 2,000 word article by the 15th of January or by the end of the month. And what I'll do is I'll put that deadline into Google Calendar or somewhere else, and I'll work towards meeting that deadline or finishing the writing project a day or two in advance. So in other words, I will use the deadline that an editor sets as a goal rather than something to fear. The next type of goal you can set is earnings, and perhaps this is a goal for more advanced writers, but you may have a goal to earn a certain amount from a book that you're self-publishing. And that's a pretty achievable goal if you've researched your niche, if you've researched your audience, and if you're clear about what other books within your niche earn. So you could say to yourself, I want to earn $500 a month in passive income from my self-published book. Or if you're a freelance writer, on the other hand, you could say, within 6 months, I want to be earning $1,000 or $2,000 a month in side income from my freelance writing. And those are both achievable goals if you study the market, if you study what self-published books earn, or if you study what other freelancers earn and what their rates are. The next type of goal you can set is by publication. And this is a goal I actually set at the start of 2018. I looked at the publications that I like to read online, Entrepreneur, Mashable, and Forbes. And I said to myself, I wanted to write for one of these publications by the end of the year. So I started studying what other types of writers for these publications wrote, and I also tried to figure out who the editors for these publications were. And this helped me come up with some interesting ideas that I was able to pitch to the editor of Forbes in particular, and then I was able to start writing for Forbes. And if you're interested in reading some of those articles, I share them with members of my email list, which you can join by visiting becomeawritertoday.com/join. And I cover topics like productivity and innovation, which can also be applied for the creative process. You may not be interested in those topics, but perhaps there's a publication that you want to write for. And if there is, you could set that as a goal that you can work towards achieving. Remember, a good goal is typically SMARTER. SMARTER is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound. You can evaluate it and it's rewarding. So what does that look like in practice? Well, last year I set a SMARTER goal. It said, I will self-publish a compilation of my writing books by April 2018. That compilation is available on Amazon. Just type in Become a Writer Today. That goal is specific because I've specified exactly what I'm going to do. That goal is measurable because I've set a date of April 2018. I felt it was achievable because I'd already written these books. I just needed to re-edit them for self-publication. I also felt the goal was time-bound, which is why I set a date of April 2018. In other words, I didn't want it to drag on towards the end of the year. I also thought the goal was something I could evaluate because I could ask myself at the end of the week or at the end of the month, had I finished re-editing book 1 in this compilation? Had I hired a book cover designer? And so on. And finally, the goal was rewarding because I knew I'd be able to connect with more writers on Amazon because I'd have another book, and I'd also be able to increase my earnings as a nonfiction author. Typically, what I do is I set 3 to 6 goals that I will work on at any one time. And by one time, I mean a 3-month or 6-month period. I will write them all down in Evernote, and then once a week or once a fortnight, I will look at the goal in question and I will ask myself, what have I done during the previous week towards achieving this goal? And what will I do during the coming week to work towards achieving this goal? If all of that sounds a bit over the top or a bit advanced, you don't have to do it. I would just say to yourself, start with something simple like setting a simple writing goal for your articles or for your first draft. And that simple writing goal could be a word count, or it could just be to get published on a particular publication. In other words, the goal should support your writing and help you achieve what you want to get out of it. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about productivity or writing, 2 books that I often recommend are Getting Things Done by David Allen and The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Both books talk about goal setting and lots of other things that will help you accomplish more. And although they're not specifically about writing, they will help you balance writing with other projects that you may have on or with your work and so on. I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. If you did, please leave a rating on the iTunes store. And if you want to accomplish more with your writing, please visit becomeawritertoday.com/join and I'll send you a free email course. Thanks for listening.